All right, everybody, welcome to this week's episode of MVP Office Hours. I have to apologize. I've accidentally excluded all of my other hosts from this call, so please be patient with me. I'm new to this. Not really. Thanks everyone for joining. The normal stuff is up here, and in an effort to try to get to the call, I'm going to skim through the normal shenanigans. But please remember that we're all available on Twitter. Success Community is your friend. There's lots of stuff coming up next week, both TDX and Northeast Dreaming and Texas Dreaming, and all that has virtual connections to it, I believe, as well. So please use that opportunity to learn and collaborate and network wherever you can. Everything you can be found on the events links on Trailhead. Welcome all future and current MVPs if you're out there. We want everyone to participate, but please remember that we're recording. So if you're not sharing, please stay on mute. And if you are sharing information and you want to share a screen, please don't share production because we are recording. We can't exclude you. Feel free to post any of your questions, your posts, your comments in the feed. We'll make sure we get as much of it into the communication as possible. And I keep saying we like I'm I didn't kill everybody. Try to get everybody in order and get to all the questions, and use all the tools and links and everything else that you can to communicate what you want to communicate. Normal resource list, so we'll skip past that and we'll jump right into the questions. I bet you that's Joy. Is that you, Joy? Did you join via the phone?
I did join via phone.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Hi, everybody.
Okay, so let's see here. I gotta get this open, and we'll jump right into a couple things that popped up in the success groups over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Todd had a really long, detailed question that got some really good responses, and I think he had answers. Todd, are you on today?
Yes, I am.
Do you want to summarize the question and if you got your answers?
Well, I was having trouble with the flow. I've finished my conversion of Process Builder into flows, and we're just running into a few little things. One of them was I had a flow that was failing. Turns out it wasn't caused by ownership or who owned it when it was running. It turned out that I was in a loop. So my after save flow was updating the record we were on, which triggered the after save flow again. So I had to take care of that. So I'm good. I got my answer through the forum and all is well now.
Looking back, was there anything that could have helped you find that sooner, or was it just a surprise?
It just took me time to trace it because the debug really wasn't, it worked fine in debug. It only failed when I actually updated the record. So what I did was set a couple debug fields on it, and they were incrementing multiple times each run. I'm like, aha, that would be my clue.
And what's may I ask what your long-term, it sounds like you got a little bit of tech debt to resolve?
Yeah, I got some of that going on too.
All right.
So along that line, there was a previous discussion about how to find things and, dependencies and all of that.
Okay.
We actually purchased a tool called Metadata Search out of the App Exchange, and we hit a good deal. We got 25% off. So I'm actually working with that tool now, and it seems to work fairly well.
Say a little bit more about what it's helping you do.
You can go in and put in your search criteria and then choose which objects you want to search. Just due to the quota limits within Salesforce, you can't search every single object in the world at once. But if I'm specifically looking to clean up flows, or what I'm kind of using it for, as I know I have fields out there that were created and have never been used. So in addition to where is this used in the regular configuration, I can use this tool and it will actually dip into the private reports and tell me where they live. So I had one instance where I replaced a field and it was on a private report, and My poor support person spent about 30 minutes before she figured out that it was a private report and the field hadn't gotten swapped out. So hopefully this tool will help me find some of those things and mitigate them before they become an issue. So I worked trying to get stuff out to Visual Force, Visual Code.
Yep.
What's the tool?
Yep.
Visual Studio Code. And that was a fail for me. I just couldn't get it there and get things searched like I needed to, but MetaSearch seems to be doing it what I need right now.
And it's called MetaSearch?
I think it's metadata search. I think you got it right.
Okay, cool. All right.
So thank you for your help.
You bet. Thanks for sharing. Yvonne had some questions about how to show a calendar on a public group. I'm not sure if I saw her join. And if I'm not mistaken, Dale mentioned the MVP group to discuss in detail. Without her on, I can't get into much detail, but are there people on the call right now that just have familiarity or some use cases for public group calendars and how they're using them right now? It's okay if not.
I haven't used public calendars in a long time.
So can I ask a question on this? Hi, everyone.
Of course.
I think, so yesterday I was going through Salesforce and I found that calendar. We do have a third-party tool that we use that keeps the calendar in sync, also emails and saves emails to Salesforce and so on. But the question there was, and we don't use the calendar in Salesforce, but the question was, can this be seen by everyone, or is it already set up where the team only sees it? So if I'm a manager, can I see all of my team calendar? And if I'm another, for example, sales rep that I don't have any reports, can I see others' calendars, or can I just see mine? If it's clear. So is it a private calendar, or is it just settings like where I can say this person can see it, but this other person can't? Or nobody uses calendars. Because to be honest,
that's the other thing is I think that a lot of folks are using their email, like their email tools calendar, like the Google Calendar or the Outlook calendar or whatever other tool you're using. And so I'm not, I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know.
I'll look it up. But yeah,
so there's some pretty good documentation on public calendars in general.
Okay.
My experience
in Salesforce.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Great.
My experience has been there's a kind of that, like what Joy was saying, that challenge of if not everyone's on Salesforce, or you already have an email tool and you're using those calendars to manage everything, why would I replicate? In our case, we've also had the challenge where if you have email integration and you're bringing calendars from Salesforce to Outlook or vice versa, or Gmail,
right,
there's a lot of challenges for a user to make sure which ones do I want to have display in Salesforce. And so we've decided that we don't sync anything outbound. We let we use Outlook be the source of truth. And so if you want something on a calendar in Salesforce, you create it yourself, or you use the side panel to generate a brand new version of that. Okay. Because of that kind of, I don't want everyone to see everything on my calendar unless they want them to. The other piece of that is we are trying really hard to push people to start using calendaring of data rather than just events. So being able to do things like when's the close date on our opportunities, when's the next follow-up on a meeting, things like that. Being able to just generate an output and say, here's your to-do calendar, kind of, or at least like the milestones calendar. That's been getting a lot of traction, and I like that.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like I there was a timeline app or something that I was looking at to do exactly that. But yeah, like mapping out some folks map out their asset availability on the calendars and whatnot. But yeah.
Okay.
Public groups and calendars.
I read on it, and then what I'm planning on probably doing is just hopefully not have a sync at all. Because yeah, it's it's not helpful at this stage. We use Outlook and they're already used to use Outlook. It's just, it was part of the tool. So for some people, auto populates very well.
Mhm.
But the problem is they're never gonna look at it the way that we're working today. So, okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best examples I've seen using it is less of a replacement of your existing tooling and more of an extension of the actual Salesforce implementation, and just use it in that framework. That usually lands a lot better. So
That's a good point, though. Yeah, that's a good idea to keep in mind for sure. Thank you.
you bet. I saw a couple people come off mute. Anybody else have thoughts on this? All right. And then Katie had a question about being able to attach a file to a case and then carry it to other records. That was a really good conversation, I thought. Did Katie join today?
I'm right here.
Hi
Yeah.
there.
Hi,
Yay, yay.
I'm here.
Tell us a little bit more about the problem and if you're able to solve it and if you have more questions.
Well, it came up because our managers were looking through accounts, and I don't know why, but they were looking at files as a sign of activities for the contracts that they were activating. And we use cases to submit a request to our operations team to activate contracts, not Salesforce contracts, but internal contracts. And so instead of, they felt like it was, I thought it was like a filing cabinet. You go to cases, you find the contract that you're looking for, and you find the associated paperwork under that case. But they want it all collected under the account, which I can also see that argument as well, being, having everything in one spot instead of having to look through the list and stuff. So they just said it would be less clicks if we could just roll it over to the account page if we posted a file on the case. And so being as cross objects, and I'm not really familiar with files, I know they get an ID, but that's pretty much the extent of it. And I just didn't know if that could be possible. And honestly, I didn't think it could, but I was like, well, it was worth a shot, and let's just ask the pros. So, but
By the way, this is a great question, because I also have the same challenge when it comes to opportunities and signed contracts and moving those to the contract, and which ones to move or not move, because also with cases, you might have people uploading multiple files, but you really only want certain ones. And then how do you do that via an automation or something? So I'm very interested in the answers.
Yeah, I mean, I did kind of warn against my manager. I said, if we do this, we can't stop a user from posting the file on the account and then going to the case and posting it again. But right now they're complaining that they have to post it too many places, which I understand. And I showed them how to reference the file that's already posted, but that's more clicks than they want to do. Their fingers getting tired. So if they could just post it in one spot and it'll always post under the account. I mean, I think the manager is willing to take on the duplicate situation and see how that affects storage and reviewing things. I think she'd rather deal with that later and get I think she has more use out of it now than dealing with duplicates. So I didn't know.
You can attach, it's a relation. So the file is one file. Since you're looking at Squire, when you load the file, you can say, I want it related to both the case and the account, because manually you could go to that file, say, oh, I want to upload a file, but then they're like, oh, here's all the list of files that are already part of Salesforce. And then you just say, yeah, and then it's tied to both items. Now, being able to pick and choose, that's a whole other level, rather than just saying anything that's tied to this type of case and the account is on the case. You could do a flow to automatically set a relation to that file to the account.
Yeah, I mean, I think we shouldn't glean over or zip past that, because I think it's really important that if you continually load the same file to same records, you are duplicating, triplicating, quadruplicating that file's existence in your storage, which may or may not be a problem. I know from our perspective, we have like 2 terabytes of storage and we're using 4% of it. So thank God they're using it. But you might start to get into a situation where versions get out of sync, or who knows. And so using that content relationship is really, really important. And so I think using Flow to do that really will help you. And I'll go one step further, maybe to from a use case perspective. So we have a situation where we relate lots and lots of files to our opportunity, but those files have to be categorized in a specific way to make sure that we hit there's like 20 checkpoints. And so when a file is added, it represents checkpoint 2 or checkpoint 3 or whatever. So the way we've done that is in content, there's a details tab that you can add custom fields to, and those content details store that relationship. But to modify them, it's really difficult to find the file, open the file, go to the details tab, make an edit for every one of these things. So what we've done, and it sounds a little bit like where you're headed, is we use a flow and one of the unofficial SF components, I think it's called data table, to actually list the versions and the details on the versions. And so now what we really interact with is the version records, which is where that's stored. And now we can say this file, here's the data about that version. So we can add these extra things, and we can see how it's connected. And we go through that architecture that's up on the screen right now to say, this object is related to this file through that content relationship record. And then we go to the version record and say, here's the data, and put it all together in one flow to help us manage that. It's a very, I shouldn't say very, because that's not a true statement. It's a straightforward relationship, and Flow handles it very well, but it will take a little bit of iteration to understand why you would add a relationship. How do you mark it? So to the earlier comment about sometimes you mark certain ones that you want to relate other places, you have to find some way to trigger that off of some part of that data architecture.
I'm only like an intermediate, so all of this is beyond my skill set.
No, it's not.
Thank you.
I just might be talking too fast. It's not. I assure you, very straightforward from a mapping perspective. If you take just like a really high level Lucidchart view of how the data connects, and then start with your flow and just say, when this happens, do this. I think it's much easier than I'm making it sound, I should say. You should not be afraid of it.
Hey, Katie, I posted in the chat, and I've tried to look at this before and I never got back to it. But if you Google search Lightning Flow to copy file links to an account, it pulls up a bunch of links with videos and even Squire's unofficial SF link. So there's a lot of documentation out there, which may help educate you in understanding the process and maybe even attempting to do it. So
I may have been Googling the wrong words.
yeah. But yeah, definitely Flow seems to be the best bet, and then just your choice of way of doing it.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Well, and Chris, so I think I saw something like this too. I don't know if it's one of the out of the box flow things, but what you're essentially saying is if a file is added to a case, write an automation that then associates it to the associated account to that case, basically. Is that kind of, I think that's how the flow worked, but I could be wrong. Because I saw something, but I didn't dig into it because I was like, I don't know how to pick the right one. But in this case, it sounds like anything that gets added at least throw to the account level. No, you're muted.
There looks like there's a whole bunch of different flavors of attempting this. I just actually looked at one that was on the Trailblazers site that's transfer files from an object to another using ScreenFlow, which seemed pretty cool too. So you can actually visually see what you're doing versus it just happening behind the scenes. But yeah, I mean, you may have to jump in and really dig down to understanding all the processes involved and the best bet for your organization and the way you want to accomplish the end result. This was something I had the same use case, right? We've got cases, but then you've got other users having to navigate down to the case level. They just wanted to have everything roll up to the account level. So
Yeah, we did the last org I was in, we did something like that with, because we were using Conga and we needed to copy the signed file. We basically were creating another document link and it linked it up to the opportunity so that people could see it that didn't have Conga access. So you probably could, and we did it on, we did a record triggered flow when the contract status changed. And then I think I also had, I think I did a record trigger to back. I don't know. There was another thing for that, but so it's doable. I have to try to, I'm going to see if I can find what I used to reference it because it's actually not a crazy complicated flow. It's like 2 or 3 steps. So I'll see if I can find it and then I'll post a link in here.
I mean, if I'm understanding what you're saying, I mean, like the complication is just finding your way from the record to the file to then create the new record, right? Because
Yeah,
it's not a direct relationship. It's a
weird,
it's like
yes.
a W-shaped relationship. Like the file has relationships, the relationships related to a file, the file is related to a version. And so you have to like work your way up and down to find your way to where you're going. Right? You can do it, Katie. We know it.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say was that this isn't a one-off type of request. There's a lot of people on this call and even in the Google search that are looking to accomplish it. So there's a lot of information.
Well, I'm happy I brought it up for everybody.
We want updates. When you get it to work, you got to celebrate with us, okay?
Okay.
So that was everything that was in the queue, or sorry, not in the queue, but in the success community. So next up, Brandon, you had something.
Yeah, so we just started to, we haven't rolled it out yet, but we're working on chat, Salesforce chat, or I don't know, whatever they're calling it now, but it's the new thing, not the old chat. And so I've gotten it so we can at least display the button, contact the agent, and I've got it so the agents can be active. The thing that, without having sysadmin rights, the challenge that I'm having right now is our SDR director that heads up the team that will be answering the chats cannot access and view the omni-channel supervisor. And I, for the life of me, cannot find a place to the specific permissions, because I've assigned him a bunch of different permissions and I feel like I'm just guessing. So, and by the way, if there's a better, and I know that Unofficial Salesforce just had a chat thing out there, so I'm going to go take a look at that too, because I just looked at it, and just how to customize chat so that the windows look better and stuff. So it's a lot there, but really the only thing I really care about right now is the permissions for the omni-channel supervisor.
Oh, how I was hoping that Jake was on. He's our service guy.
And if not, I've gotten pretty far just by, Googling stuff. So
The
I think that's like your first step, right? Is like the Google the heck out of stuff, and then hope that we can find an expert that can help you out. And
yeah.
let's throw something at Jake in the community. Let's tag Jake.
Yeah, I didn't even post anything in the
Community
community.
group.
I should do that and just kind of.
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
Jake's been doing
because,
service for so long, he probably knows the answer right now. Like he's probably somewhere thinking, someone needs me. The bat signal.
the bat signal's
right?
out.
Yeah.
The Jake signal's up.
That is the good news. I mean, that was part of the reason that we bought this stuff was I've mostly been on the sales side of it. So I really wanted to start to get to the service side of it. And our team's really excited because we showed how like the leads created right away. And so we need to figure out some of those behind the scenes, how to populate that. It came from chat and stuff like that. So, but you
Mhm.
know, at the end of the day, we just need to be able to have like the supervisors see who's chatting to people and have access to those things. So, yeah. And I'm okay punting on this one because, you know, I'll post to the community and we can figure that out too. So I do have an unrelated and second topic, but I will wait on that and let other people go first. So
Yeah, so I just, Squire, thank you for being like a superhero, like and running the call and the and the chat.
Yeah, if I hadn't
and
kicked
the
you out, I
PowerPoint.
wouldn't have to flex at all. So
But that's okay. That's okay. You're doing amazing, and like getting the links posted back into the PowerPoint. You're just I feel like I'm just kind of like eavesdropping on the whole call. Does anyone else have any questions?
there was
Before
nothing in
Brandon
the
hits us up
chat,
with the
but
next big one.
it's not a big one, it's a small
All
one.
right, all right, Brandon, you can talk to us unless you want to hear about my squirrel issue.
I just had one
So-
quick thing.
Yeah, go
Does
ahead.
anybody have any tools besides Serious Insight and the native Salesforce tools for logging events? And I know we had an events conversation. I came in the middle of that, but any suggestions of any other tools that people are using?
logging like actual like meeting events, like task.
Yeah,
events?
calendar. Like, can I
Yeah.
connect my Gmail calendar to Salesforce calendar and not even Salesforce calendar, just logging the event into Salesforce? Seems like
I
serious.
can complain about lots of them. Is that what you want to hear?
I can too, and that's my problem. I'm currently in test with Einstein Activity Capture. Seems to be working,
Oh,
but if there's any gotchas, I'd appreciate that too.
Oh, there
So many
are.
gotchas.
You came to the right spot.
Oh,
Oh,
Yep.
geez.
Who wants to start?
Joy. Joy does.
Well, so first of all, are you a Google shop or a Outlook shop?
Google Shop.
So we use the Google, just so standard plugin, and it's great. Events show up in Salesforce and vice versa. And if you use the Zoom plugin, when you schedule a call, it shows up. That's great. If you want to report on those activities, especially emails and stuff, there's a whole challenge there that you'll never accomplish. But I'll
And that's
stop
the
there.
native just Gmail connector to Salesforce. Is that what you're talking about? Or
Yeah, whatever the Chrome plugin is.
I
think,
got
right?
it. Okay. Okay.
So if I remember
you're
right,
looking
I think we talked about this once before, that all of that EAM stuff sits in the analytics cloud or something. It's not even accessible from standard reporting, right?
Correct. It's on
Yeah.
an Amazon and AWS server.
This is
it's
interesting
awesome.
because I took my production reports that we're using right now using native Salesforce events, and I ran them against the calendar events in the sandbox that I tested with using Einstein Activity Capture, and they ran.
Events work, emails don't.
Email.
Ac-
Okay.
activity.
Oh, sorry,
quote
activi-
unquote task. Yeah, task.
But
Events,
events show up
yeah.
because they sync on the calendar though, right?
I think so.
So-
But I ran into that with a former employer a number of years ago, and the big gotcha is that like the common users can't run the reports on the activity.
So I'll give you
Yeah.
our use case that we have a leadership team that's very focused on emails and how many emails were sent.
Mhm.
And so, you know, they're sending them, you know, just via Gmail, and the Einstein Activity Capture is logging them, but it's not showing up in the reports. And so the
Mhm.
workaround was then to download the Chrome plugin Auto BCC and then make sure that it gets BCC'd through the backdoor email thing that then logs it as a task, which,
Oh my God.
yeah, I know, exactly.
It makes my head hurt.
Yeah, exactly. So,
It's almost like it's
events-
mirroring the data from the Einstein Activity Capture to the BCC. That's right. And so now you've got two
Yeah,
records?
so there's two activity records, one that shows up in reports, one that doesn't, because it's stored on that other email server.
Yeah.
So, but it accomplishes what we need to do.
Well, yeah, oh my God.
There are some solutions out there. Most of them I saw like were $16 a user per month or whatever. And I'm like, it's not worth it.
I mean, for that kind of cost, you can almost build an email integration app with a developer, right? Like that's kind of where we were at, is as have someone just build something from scratch that converts from your email server to tasks. And then granted, that's a terrible idea, but it's still better
Right.
than that
But
cost.
that calculation comes to the number of users you have, Squire. And so if someone has like 20 users in their org, it might be worth it. But if they have like 10,000, it might not.
Very, very accurate. Thank you.
I mean, the good news is that the
I know you have a
emails,
big org.
the emails are still in there, which is great. It's just they don't show up as activities. And so, you know, if all you're doing is looking to an account to say, hey, what was the last things that happened over the last year, you can see it. But
Mhm.
That's good
I
insight
think-
because I was hearing both. I'm like, well, they don't get stored as events. And I'm like, but I tested it and it looks like they're there. So it makes sense now that you said the emails don't, but the events do. So that's definitely in itself a big help. So thank you.
It's not at all confusing. Well, no, it's
Yeah,
very confusing.
I
I'm
posted
sorry.
I posted a link. I posted and I shared a link, the good and the bad regarding it. And
In the
again,
static chat, thank you.
yeah, and there's the Amazon, they'll only hold it up to, I think, like 90 days or 180 days in some of the search queries. And I can't remember, I think you guys were just talking about if it's held as tasks or events, but I think they may be held as activities, and then you can't do any. That activity tab or object is the challenging piece where you can't do a lot of roll-ups or
no, you can't. Yeah, you can't do anything with it.
you can't do anything with it, so
Yeah.
it just sits there. And,
Yeah, you can't even like do triggers or workflows and stuff. So I will say this, they do give you, and it's not great, is like a sales activity tab that's basically a Tableau instance that shows all of it in reporting, but you can't, it's not like a report. It's just,
The key word there is like.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
It's like it's not like it. So when we were when I was working with this former employer, they had purchased Wave as it was before it was Tableau, right? Before it was combined with Tableau and all that craziness. And that was the crazy thing, is that like me and the people that had access to Wave could do all this cool stuff with it, but we couldn't deliver it to the standard users. Like, and the standard users included the executive leadership team. And so it was like, we were stuck. I was like, I don't want to deliver them a PDF. That's insane. Right. And that's how they want you to get the more licenses, right? Like, anyway.
And they did say if you buy like Tableau or something, then you can do that. But again, I think you need to have, everybody has to have, you know, a license. So yeah.
Yep. And so there are other tools, like, what is it? I can't think of the name of it. SalesLoft and like some other tools, but they do more of that like cadence, that high velocity sales stuff, but they also do a good job of tracking all those emails. So what's the other one?
Groove.
Outreach.io.
Groove.
Outreach is the one I'm
Outreach.
looking for. Yeah, Outreach. So, I mean, those are some options too, but I mean, the price point might be ridiculous.
I've used all three of those.
Mhm.
Groove, I found Groove to be the nice mix between Outreach is like more technical, analytical. SalesLoft is on a separate instance, so you got to sync a bunch of stuff. And
Mhm.
Groove is literally built on the Force platform. So when a rep sends an email via Groove, it gets logged as a task, not in the weird server world. So that's at least a plus. But yeah, now you're talking about buying a whole nother platform to do those things. So
There is
Well, yeah,
a,
but if you're paying $16 a user for activity, like for
Groove's more than that. It's but yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree with you.
depends on the needs. So
yeah, there is another tool that
Alright.
we use. It's called Revenue Grid.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
Yeah, so that one captures the activities as tasks, so the emails. And then also, obviously, yes, all the basic functionality that you get from unpaid versions of things, but also has it's called Revenue Grid. Now, they also have a part where you see outgoing, ingoing, in the ones that you receive, the ones that they sent, and then it kind of spins off an analytics on that where it looks at the opportunity and if there is any activities there and who you're talking to. So it gives you a whole array of analytics to understand if the opportunity is active or not active. There is signals that sense if there is a closing date coming up soon, and then there is no activities over with the emails, then it kind of alerts the sales managers if needed. So there's a whole array of extra features that you get with the Revenue Grid. But it does capture all those emails automatically if you want to. So it's very easy to set up. But again, it's extra cost.
Cool. Thanks for that.
Thank you. Appreciate all your comments. Thank you. That was big. That was very helpful.
I know I learned a ton too just now. That we made the decision. Daniel, you wanted to talk about currencies and price books?
Yeah, hi guys. I inherited I started a new position and I inherited 3 orgs across 800 users, something like that.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's huge and real happy, love the job, but they use multiple currencies and we've got price book issues all over the place. So old price books, just a lot of data cleanup that has to be done. But I really just need to understand currencies better. So I'm looking for quick links to information. I don't know how to update these price book entries and how it all works. This is basic sales stuff. But I admit I've fallen off on my current multiple currencies repertoire, I guess.
Is someone, or is that falling on you, managing the currency model right now, or is it also out of date?
We're looking at getting an updater. What do you call it? With the updates, the daily, the words escape me.
Currency
Conversion.
To update conversion. Thank you.
Yeah.
Of currencies.
You're
And
updating. So question for you on the updating daily, because your price quotes and everything that reps are using is going to be a challenge. So when I was at SAP, we had it on like a 90-day rotation. That quotes were good at that price for 90 days, just because fluctuations, penny up or down. But anyways, just thought I'd share that. Sorry.
Right. So ours are feeding into SAP based on Salesforce is the source of truth for the price.
Got it.
It hadn't been updated in years. So these multiple currencies, I don't think they were being used correctly. So I don't know. I just inherited a problem that I didn't know much about.
So I gotta challenge you, because if Salesforce is the source of truth, but you're writing to SAP and the next day the source of truth changes, you're setting yourself up for issues already. If a daily conversion, that's kind of what Brandon I think was just saying, is if your source of truth is changing daily, then your SAP needs to change daily, which is going to cause you even more grief.
Well, they get locked into a price.
Right, but you've got two systems comparing if you've got a daily conversion change.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I'll just make up a bad number and Brandon fill in the gap here too, because you dealt with it. So you complete that quote for $100, your conversion rate for euro makes 110, you send that over to SAP, and the next day your conversion rate turns that 100 and 109. Now you don't have reliable reporting between SAP and what Salesforce is saying the quote value is.
We're not looking for Salesforce to report sales, maybe just opportunities, but we're not looking for the results of it. We're just trying to input.
Okay.
So
Does the price?
SAP will
Sorry.
actually update PI in another reporting feature.
So basically, I mean, once the opportunity of the quote's created, the price kind of locks in at whatever the price was of the currency. Is that kind of what?
Yes,
Okay. So it's essentially pointing to a snapshot, I believe.
there you go.
Okay. That's better.
Because I think what you were saying earlier too on your 90-day schedule is that managing a conversion rate on a daily scale is
Yeah, as long as you quote, when you quote, that's the price that it's locked in at, you know.
but being able to like prove that or return it, because like people don't normally have access to the
Currency tables, right? Yeah.
right, exactly. So now you kind of have to like disassociate them or store them. I've seen people do that where it's like 100 US euro on February 22nd was this, right? That
Right.
I feel like
I
there
think
is a
that's a
currency
problem.
table. I
That's-
could be wrong, but let me.
That's
I
a problem we
can,
haven't tried to solve yet. So we're just trying to get accurate pricing across the currencies.
I can give you something I did at a former company. It was really the finance team driving this. I don't know if this is an option, but what they did is like a 6-month average of rate and came up with a rate and used that in Salesforce. And then they just would review it every 6 months so that, because it does fluctuate daily. And obviously if there was a big swift change in the economy, then they would ask us to do it, but it rarely happened. And that was a easier method of controlling all the change. And I don't know if your company can do that, right? Because some certain companies can't do that.
I mean, it sounds like you already have it turned on, right? So
We've turned it on and ran it once. So that's the new thing. But I'm even more concerned with how do we get prices updated, list prices updated on all of my price book entries, just for one. And then does that conversion take care of the rest? Does this, because is it going to be off of it? I don't know. I'm looking for the resources used to research this. I guess you guys know this. I'm going to go to the same resources you are. Everybody knows Google, but if anybody had a magic wand out there.
Well, I think you need to create another price book with the net new prices. And make that one active and then inactivate the other.
and I'm sure if you call up Salesforce directly, they're going to say, "Have you heard of CPQ? Let's tell you about that."
Right.
I was just about to ask. We're going to implement CPQ, and I can tell you right now, from what I learned, it's not that much fun.
Yeah.
It
So
takes
these-
an expert. That's not something you should be taking a swing at.
Okay.
feel
Okay. I'll
like-
give it the college try and tell my boss to spend some money.
as long as you're not trying to convert that dollar amount, you'll be just fine.
I was
Okay.
in an org where we had multiple currencies. We had USD and then like 3 others, and they would just every month they would go in and give me like, here's what the exchange rate is. And I would just go in and basically just do a data load and update it based on whatever it was. And they had similar language that like pricing in quotes was good for whatever time period. It's an adventure because even though you put, like we would put an exchange or a conversion rate in setup, it didn't translate into the price book entries.
That's the question I had. That's the biggest question I
Yeah,
had.
you
Yeah.
let there are, if you're using like on the opportunity, if you're using the amount field, that's where the conversion rate comes into play. But the price book entries, so like I had price books that were like, I had two like GBP price books, or two I price books that had different exchange rates because there were I don't remember what the reasons were, but there were reasons. I think one just maybe one was monthly and one we updated quarterly. I don't remember. But yeah, you can manually go in and you can make, I mean, if you decide you want to charge people using GBP 15 times more, even though that's not what the exchange rate is, you can do that. So yeah, it's just basically, at least it's how I did it. We didn't have anything automated. So it was a series of data loads with price book entries.
So remind me, your price book sets your default value for that item at your org-wide default currency, and the conversion rate just helps with display and reporting. It doesn't change the pricing of the price book, does it?
Right, I think you're right.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess I just want to make sure we don't get too off track, that having your prices appropriate for a date range, and then saying, and when I want to see it in GBP or whatever, that it converts appropriately. They're two different steps in the process.
Yeah. So the price book entry, so like for your conversion rate, that comes in again, if you're using just like, if you're just putting a USD dollar amount onto an opportunity, then you have that amount, and then you would have like your GBP amount that it uses your conversion rate to calculate. The price book entries all come in when you start adding products to quotes using standard functionality, not CPQ. I mean, it still comes into play with CPQ, but my experience comes from OG prices, quotes and products.
So if I heard you right, does it make sense to, while you're trying to pull apart multi-currency, it probably would be valuable to review your price book settings as well. Just like separate the two as two learning opportunities and then put them back together versus looking at them as one big blob.
Yeah.
I follow that.
Sometimes the output doesn't match the input, right?
Moral of the story, if you can avoid working in multi-currencies, do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But once you have it turned on, you can't turn it off. So
Right.
Just waiting for somebody to say, what about crypto?
Only a matter of time. Like I say this, I think after every question, Daniel, but as you learn more, please bring it back and share with us, because we all get smarter every day.
Yeah, and I knew that omni-channel question once.
Oh,
But I haven't been in the org for a while, so now it's like, oh, what was that? And now you lose it, so you got to keep refreshing your minds all the time.
absolutely. That's why we're here, right?
Yep.
Quick time check. There's 5 minutes. I wanted to make sure that if we had any quick hitters, and I'm sorry, Brian, did you say you had another quick one, or was that it?
All it was is that we have customers labeled as customers under type, and I want to, by industry on the account of any account, display similar accounts by that same industry, if that makes sense. So if I'm looking at a prospect in manufacturing, I want to see our current customers in manufacturing just in a little widget next to it. I was able to, without writing triggers and stuff, I'm able to do it with some code, but is there an easier way to do it, or does somebody know of some way that they've done it without getting too crazy?
How many are displaying?
Well, that's the great thing, is that if I filter it by the industry, it'll display all of them, so I can get them all to display or none, just based off of the filter and the widget that I built. in the little Visual Force page widget. The challenge is that I don't know how to swap that variable out. It's a SOCL query, basically.
I only ask that because I
Wait,
don't know if
would it-
there's limitations. I've done it where I've displayed various things like
Oh,
that on Flow.
We have like 450 customers, so I'm not worried about that.
Okay.
And I might just limit it to the top 10 too, or whatever. So
Yeah, I've done it on
Based on the
Flow.
most recent activity or, yeah.
yeah.
Why not just
or
a
the
list
top
view?
10.
I don't, how do you pull a list view cross object, if that makes sense?
You should be able to pull any list view from any object into a record page. Are you in Lightning?
Sorry, yes. I'm doing a list view. I'm doing a list view using a SOCL query on that page. I just can't figure out how to populate a variable from that current account.
Right. I guess what
Maybe I'm
I'm
wrong.
thinking, and again, without knowing everything. So how many types do you have?
I mean, we've got just like 6, but all I'm saying is type equals
Yep.
company.
So if you just had 6 list views that filtered your accounts by
Oh.
type, and you just had custom visibility, or on
Yep.
each one, you just drop the list view, would be completely declarative and inline editable and lots of other things.
Yep. So it's by industry. And so we've got like 40 industries our customers are across.
Sure. Okay.
So then I was like, oh, I could write a bunch of widgets, but I was like, ah, screw that. Not going to do that.
So wouldn't it be cool if in about a month and a half you had filterable related lists?
Yeah. And I'm assuming that's part of the summer release.
Well, I mean, granted, it's still only going to be related, so it's closer, but still going to have a problem because you're basically, yeah. What about
There is
the unofficial SF Lightning component that lets you actually query and drop it on?
I'll take a look at that because there was also one that I looked at, which was there's also another plugin. It's like command something or other that allows you to do what you were talking about, was basically customizable related lists and filters and stuff too. So yeah, I was trying to do it with just like a cute little Visual Force page, SOCL query embedded hack. And the only thing I'm missing is that variable. So anyways.
So, and you are using Visual Force?
Yeah.
So you should be able to pass from the page reference into the controller, like the record you're on.
So I didn't build a controller. It's all non-controller. So
yeah, you have to have a controller. So it says
that's
this
why. Otherwise,
ID,
I'd probably have
this
done it
value,
already.
and go get it. Yep. But it's a pretty straightforward controller. If you've got the Visual Force written, that's the hard part. The controller is probably like 6 lines.
Yeah, I found enough code out there to display the list, and then I didn't want to do controllers. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to stay with the clicks, not the code.
I
I know.
get it. You wrote Visual Force. You already broke the rules. So
I know. Well, yeah, you're right. Anyways, that was helpful at least. So appreciate it.
if I can offer one other thing, just because it sounds like you're super like engaged, this is also a pretty straightforward Lightning component. It would be a great opportunity to kind of learn that space if you're not familiar, because it really is. It's almost as easy as what you just described in Visual Force. You could use a standard event to just say, when I open, pass this variable to a query and return this really, I'll say generic. It's way harder than that, I know that, but generic Lightning component that does the same things, and you could really flex and ask for a raise.
All right, what did you just call that? Sorry, go ahead.
Honestly, if you just if you were to do the trailhead for Lightning components,
Okay.
it with the Lightning Data Service modeling, and as easy as they've made the templates go, it probably will build itself if you just go through I think it's a 2-hour total trail. I bet you could write this in Lightning component if you wanted to.
I do want to learn some more of that stuff because I do think there's a lot of cool stuff I could probably do with it. So that is perfect. I will take that as your advice. And it looked like
I can't wait.
Somebody also said display flow. So what is display flow?
That's just how I've solved it before when I've done similar items, is
Cool.
that it's a screen flow that you're not really doing it, but it just displays on the side whatever I want it to display, and with line breaks. So
Sounds good to me. I'll check all of that stuff out. Awesome.
I like that too, Christy.
All right,
That's the
it's
SF,
time, folks.
the unofficial SF components do a lot of that sort of thing. So I like where it has that too.
You got me smiling. This is great. Love it. You guys are so helpful. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, I think
Aw,
we're gonna let
great.
everybody go because I'm sure you all have a 2 o'clock on a Friday. I'm sorry to hear that. But it was really awesome to see you all and to share. And by this time next month, I'll have allowed Joy back into our meetings, and so she can be part of the team.
Seriously.
Thank you everyone for joining. Have a great long weekend, and I will see you the first Friday of next month.
Thank you. Bye,
Yeah,
everyone.
we'll see you on the
Bye.
Trailblazer community until then. Bye, everybody.